I think Stamps has an amazing chance for you to explore.
Every day I was doing something different.
I really like that Stamps offered me that ability to experiment.
And I really fell in love with just like the Stamps experience and the vibe of having a small art school within a larger university.
Hi, I'm Jules. Something that I want to make sure prospective students know about the STAMP School is that it is a safe place for you to explore what the world of art and design has to offer at the collegiate level, and you get to design your experience, what courses you're taking, what research you're undertaking, what you and your friends are going to make together, and it's a really welcoming community.
The people I met made the most difference in my experience here, and also the way that you have to be so interdisciplinary and work in multiple mediums. It really teaches you to learn something and sort of like center yourself into making and sort of like creating ways to get better at everything you do.
I have definitely found a lot of community. I think part of that is the nature of ceramics. You can't really do your homework at home. You have to come to the ceramic studio, and so that kind of naturally facilitates more community.
As somebody who's not even an art major, I have genuinely met some of the most talented and refreshing people here.
I feel like I got really close to faculty within my junior year. A professor that I feel like I really loved taking was Frank Nuno-Quarco. Having that experience with him and some of the other faculty members here at Stamps has really been fruitful for me.
My name is Rita, I use she, her pronouns, and I'm an admissions counselor. We offer a bunch of different degrees. The BFA is like for people who want to be makers, want to be like in the studio, like making things with their hands. So the BFA is 60% more or less studio practice. You're like in studio, making stuff, doing critique, talking to your peers, what's working, what's not working. It's like all that like makey stuff. So the cool thing about the BA is that you get to split your degree more towards that academic, like dip into things outside of Stamps. The BA really flexes like the academic stuff. So you're a researcher also, and you fold that into your artistic practice. And I think it strengthens like a lot of our students having that BA option. So the inner arts degree is really unique in that like you're kind of a Stamp student, but you're also a student with the University of Michigan School of Music, Theater, and Dance. The inner arts is there because we recognize body performance needs that extra boost or that extra something different. It seems like those faculty and those students would help with someone who's interested in body performance. A dual degree means that you are a student of two separate programs within the university. For Stamp students specifically, it means like being in a different school entirely while you're also a Stamp student. It means you have two separate academic counselors, one for your Stamps degree, one for your other degree, and that takes time. So be patient with yourself. Like a good chunk of Stamp students are dual degrees.
Stamps is very interdisciplinary and flexible with its education, which personally works really well for me because it allows me to do so many different things that my art education builds on. For example, I am doing the BA here at Stamps, which means I get just as much art education as I do academic. So I'm also a minor in Ross for business, and those things kind of go really hand in hand. You know, business really builds upon art, and art really brings kind of some creativity to business that I think a lot of people really appreciate.
Stamps is unique because our students get to experience both an in-depth studio education as well as an academic education at a Tier 1 research institute. And our students really get to curate that experience, choosing whatever studio courses they're interested in without being confined by a major, as well as supplementing that creative practice with academic courses that they're more interested in.
What do I love about teaching? It's endless. I love it to no end. I enjoy interacting with the students. I enjoy hearing what's going on in students' lives and their engagement and the connection between art and life. I challenge students to question even what I say. With teaching, I try to be flexible too, so I do try to approach each student individually, so teach a student from a different level.
My first experience with ceramics was actually in Ben's intro class in fall of 2021. I had not really touched clay before that, outside of like elementary school, when everybody touches clay. He and I actually grew pretty close from the get-go. I feel like having more time like near each other was very helpful in terms of kind of deepening that relationship and me being able to open up about things that I maybe wouldn't have been able to otherwise. He's a very insightful person who has a lot to say about art and the art world, and he just has a ton of knowledge about art history, which is really great for me because I'm somebody who came into stamps with virtually no knowledge of art history and the art world generally. So having that kind of wealth of knowledge with me as I am exposed to more art has been really useful. I am very appreciative of that and of Ben.
A lot of what I do in first year writing is I help students get used to college writing and develop skills that they can use in writing classes across the disciplines.
Creative writing was always a part of my art, because a lot of times the stories and comics I wanted to illustrate, I would write out the scenes, but I didn't really get into writing about my creative practice until I took my first writing class with Jennifer, because that was what it was. It was the required writing class, and so it was all supposed to be about writing about your creative practice. And I never thought I would want to write about my thoughts. I always thought that's boring. I want to write about worlds and stuff like that. But the more and more I started writing about my thoughts, the more I realized what value there is to that, because it's taking all of these crazy jumbled mess of ideas I have in my brain and giving them a life on paper.
The Writing and Art and Design class, the upper level writing class, really focuses on the research behind your practice, because research is the heart of our school, and research it requires writing. Every discipline writes about their practice, and the creative people here at this school also write about their practice as if it's research as well. So when we talk about research, research always means producing new knowledge, and new knowledge comes from knowing what came before you and also reflecting on what you're doing.
I have so many students with different disciplines and different backgrounds, so it's been fascinating to work with the students. I definitely welcome undergrad to PhD students, and I oftentimes bring my project into the classroom environment. Actually, I work with a dental school at UCLA, so we had a connection to dental school at U of M too. So I had students interview with the medical dental professionals and patients and develop different applications. So it's been really nice to bring the real-world research project into the classroom environment and do a very collaborative, real-world problem-solving type of project together.
So I've been teaching here at Stamps for the past 5 years, but I've been teaching in academia for over 25 years. I like to engage students in individual critiques and pinups or group critiques where they can hear input from their classmates and myself. I also engage them in opportunities for reaching out to community members, so I teach them a research-oriented approach where they develop questions that could be asked to their community members to get feedback on their work.
So we've been focusing this semester on copper, and our electronics are chock full of copper. And as you know, everybody at home is no longer hooking up wires to their television set. And so our houses are full of just thousands and thousands of miles of copper that needs to be recovered in some way. So we've partnered with the African Bead Museum in Detroit. Leme Dobbles is the director of that, and he's created this outdoor sculpture garden out of just sort of industrial waste. And he's got a little bead gallery where he sells beadwork. And so folks tour the sculpture garden, come into the bead gallery. So the students haven't been involved in a particular interest we had in following this example Dobbles had created of recovering waste.
In Ron's class, we started off taking e-waste apart. We took a fan and took the copper out of it and used the copper to create jewelry. And in this process, we learned all about the extractive industries behind jewelry making and craft in general. And from there, we made pieces of jewelry to go into the African Bead Museum, working with Dobbles there. It's important to work with community members because the stuff that we made will be going directly into this community. And I think it's important to learn from the community before you put yourself into it. I think it reminds the students that there's a whole lot more going on outside of this university, but it's important for us to be involved in that as well.
I'm glad that Rod selected us to do this project. He introduced us to a whole different process and getting something to market. There's a lot of costs involved, but if you got students doing it, then they benefit because it's an educational experience for them.
Hi, I'm Sophia Galetti, and I'm an alum of the Stamps School of Art and Design. So I went in winter 2022 to University of Arts London Central St. Martin's. I was in the Jewelry Honors class they had there with their Year 1 students, where I did so many projects, learned so many different techniques, and really was able to step into the different culture they have there and learn kind of my way around there, and it was a great experience. I was able to work with Swarovski's sustainable team there. I got to create a 6-piece collection with the women's fashion department focusing on jewelry and fashion during London Fashion Week.
My name is Jake Schraga. I am a senior at Stamps, going for a BA in art and design. I took graphic design at DIS Copenhagen, and it was only 7 weeks, but it was so eye-opening, and I could call it intense, but it didn't feel intense. Like, I learned so much so fast, but also felt so relaxed and so inspired and so creative while doing all of it, and I had so much creative freedom. And I have never gone somewhere and felt so creative every day and so free and so happy doing it when I was abroad. The Stamps International experience was actually something I really wanted to do, and it was one of the biggest reasons I came to Stamps. I think it's such a great opportunity to be able to go abroad. They have so many different programs across all 6 continents that make it so much easier for you to learn somewhere else. Once I went abroad and I met so many people at Stamps across the US and globally, I kind of built this network of friends and colleagues, and I could go to New York and I could say I have a friend here, and I would know who to go to, and I could go to Europe and know who can help me.
I feel like I gained a lot of friends from Stamps in Color. I heard about the club when I was doing campus day here, and I kind of started joining freshman year. And a lot of my friends came out of there. There was a lot of community aspect that happened where we were able to talk about our experiences in Stamps and also just share work and build our professional experiences and be able to kind of help each other with the milestones in Stamps like software review, IP, kind of have that community that, you know, exists within a club that's a smaller structure.
Stamps in Color has also been like a huge support to me, to have students who look like you, who also are artists and creatives, has been an amazing support. We always support each other, we lift each other up. And I met some of my best friends at Stamps do Stamps in Color. I would say they're definitely my #1 family within Stamps, and I'm actually the design lead for Stamps in Color this year. So that was the first club I joined at the University of Michigan.
I would really encourage you to find some sort of extracurricular activity, or just there are so many clubs and organizations here. There are so many communities that you can if there isn't one, you can make one. For me, it's the climbing team, and I can apply my art there. We rebranded the climbing team completely. You could join the math club, you could do a dance team. Find what the university is missing and how you can create new opportunities for us.
I'm Natalie Deal, and I'm an admissions counselor. What you need to know about applying to Stamps is that there are 2 main components in this process. That will include answers to various questions, submitting your high school transcripts, writing responses to essay prompts, and getting letters of recommendation from trusted educators in your life. Second, there is a portfolio of creative work that you have to submit. And those 2 pieces together are what we look at when we evaluate your application. The portfolio of creative work, it's a big part of our application decision at Stamps, and we want you to feel really confident and excited when you press submit. In order to feel that way, there are a couple of things that you can keep in mind. We're asking for 12 to 15 pieces of your creative work. We want you to emphasize experimentation. Have you ever tried a new medium or method or idea in your work? We love to see a range of media, and we love to see work with strong concepts. When you submit your portfolio, you'll be asked in your description field to answer the question, why did I make this? And that's really a great opportunity for you to explain your creative process, your unique ideas, what's going on behind the work that you're showing us. Your portfolio is an opportunity for you to show us your unique creative perspective and voice. And we really want to see, works where you stepped outside of your comfort zone, maybe even works where you're a little uncertain about how successful it is, but you're really proud of it. Don't be afraid to share unfinished work or work that was scary for you when you were trying it. We love all of it. The process of applying to college can be very stressful for students. There are a lot of different steps involved. There's a great deal of uncertainty, and it comes at this really formative time in their lives. So support from families can be incredibly helpful. I would encourage families to have an honest conversation with their students and ask them, what kind of support do you need from me? You know your student best. You know their strengths and their weaknesses. You know where you can step in, whether that's keeping track of deadlines, looking over an essay, or simply being that voice of encouragement for them when they're feeling overwhelmed.
Even though I went here and I was a graduate of the School of Art and Design and had my experience here at the University of Michigan, that Lena's experience was going to be Lena's experience. My experience was incredible. I felt like I had this great community and area of field of study that I could go deep and narrow, but in the context of this amazing world-class institution where I could really study so many different things, and more importantly, I think for me, be introduced to and exposed to so many different amazing students on this campus.
I feel like I've had the opportunity to go into lots of different fields of study. I've taken printmaking, painting, digital art classes, graphic design, classes structured around like certain ideas rather than like mediums. And it's just been great to get to explore all of that.
Even though I knew she was going to be walking down the same halls, which honestly is like so special to me because I literally have that mental picture of exactly what sort of her days look like as a parent, but also knowing that this was going to be Lena's brand of Michigan. It wasn't going to be mine. It wasn't going to be my experience. And that's the beauty of being at this university, is that you get to carve whatever path that you want. And I think Stamps also gives you the freedom to be able to do that.
You may be wondering, how do I pay for my education at Stamps? There's a variety of financial support that is available to you. First, I'd like to call attention to Stamps-specific scholarships. All students who are admitted to Stamps are considered for these awards. They're given on the basis of both merit and need. For our merit-based scholarships, there's no extra application process. We will take a look at your application materials and the portfolio that you've already submitted when making those decisions. For Stamps need-based scholarships, it's important that you complete both the FAFSA and the University of Michigan CSS profile. We will take information from those forms into account when making Stamps need-based scholarship decisions. Separate from federal financial aid and scholarships from Stamps and the University of Michigan, we strongly encourage students to apply for independent scholarships. Deadlines, we have some. This is what you need to know. If you are a first-year student applying to Stamps, our early action deadline is November 1st. I strongly encourage you to consider applying by that early action deadline. It allows you to get a decision back sooner from us and have more time to make your college decision and plans. Alternatively, we have our regular decision deadline, which is February 1st. If you are applying to Stamps as a transfer student, we accept applications for both the fall term and the winter term. If you would like to start at Stamps in the winter or in January, the application deadline is October 1st. Or if you would like to enroll for the fall term or in late August, the application deadline is February 1st.
My IP project is about definitions of wilderness and how that has personally impacted me in both my art making practice and growing up in northern Michigan. So I'm evaluating personal definitions of wilderness through family interviews, archival media, and creating just one big stop motion animation about definitions of wilderness and our connotations when we hear the word wilderness.
Hi, I'm Christina. I'm a senior here at Stamps. I'm working on my IP project and it's all about dirt. I'm really invested in the cultural implications of dirt, how dirt really shows up in our lives and our language, and all the reasons that people really should be caring about dirt. I started maybe my sophomore or junior year working with dirt, and it started, going into paper making, working in sustainable fibers, where these fibers are coming from, both for paper making and for making fabric and textiles. And I'm really invested in ways that we can bring sustainable art making materials here to Stamps and make it something that everybody can really be invested in.
Having that integrative project that is your final piece, that was one of my biggest draws to Stamps, and it was one of my greatest experiences. It was probably one of my hardest, experiences at Stamps, but I am so proud of what I made and the person I am coming out of that experience.
I'm Maggie Lamack, and I graduated from Stamps in 2018, and I'm now the Art Experience Director at Bond and Grace, which is a women-owned publishing house and art shop based in DC. When I started at Bond and Grace, I just immediately had this feeling of warmth. We're definitely a community. We value togetherness. I felt like some of the work that we were doing felt very Stamps. I mean that in the sense that it is intellectual. We are searching for a deeper meaning, and we're using design to move things forward. So when I thought about who could we work with, I immediately thought of Stamps and wanted to gather as many people as I could. So our illustrator, Abby Olson, was a Stamps grad. We also worked with Brenna K. Murphy as one of our artists. And I contributed as well. So there's a lot of Stamps art in there, and then the actual page itself was designed by Stamps grads. And I feel like having that diverse background is something about Stamps students that I knew that we would be able to utilize. And that has happened with everyone that we've worked with. They have this skill set that's beyond one-dimensional. I just feel really grateful to be working for such a cool company and to get to use the skills I acquired in school every day. I feel grateful to work for a company that has such great values. I'm just proud that I am doing what I wanted to do as an artist and a designer every day.
Stamps really emphasizes being able to do internships or job experience while you're at the university. So I made it a point to make sure that I got some work experience while I was here at the university. So I've been working as a graphic designer for the marketing and communications department here at Stamps for almost a year now. I've actually ended up taking on a lot more responsibility than I actually thought I would, and it actually gave me the opportunity to do things that I never really thought I would end up actually doing this early on in my career.
So I work with a hospital and we 3D print patient-tailored bone models of like the head neck area. So whether it could be like the craniofacial area, like including your mandible and your maxilla, or your scapula, and essentially we deliver those to the hospital so the surgeons can use them as a guide like when they're operating on the patient. All those skills I had before that were honestly from more of an artistic background.
So I actually did an internship last summer with Amazon for UX design. And it was funny because I only had one UX project from a Stamps class, but somehow landed that job. And I will be returning to Austin, Texas after I graduate to be a UX designer at Amazon.